It's the Rose Bowl. It is at 5 o'clock on New Year's Day, so you should be able to have a good amount of time. Get some greasy food in you, whatever hair of the dog that you're going to need to recover from New Year's Eve, or just sleep it all off. You should be able to be good by 5 p.m. there. Alabama, SEC champion. They're 12-1. The Michigan Wolverines, 13-0 from the Big Ten. Right now, time of recording, Michigan is a 2-point favorite in this game. Over-under, I think this is a really good number for the over-under, is at 44.5 here fresh. Listen, third time the charm maybe for Michigan. This is not the same Alabama team that we've seen in years past, but I think this is a fascinating Alabama team this year.
Well, folks, as we all know, usually these playoff games, especially the first two, the semifinals, have been blowouts ever since the playoff really came into play. There's a handful here and there that have been really good games, but for the most part, they get ugly pretty quick. Last year, two classic games, and that sort of I think got everybody's attention where we had both the games that came down to final plays and really were prime TV and showed that maybe we actually had four legit football teams in the playoff bowl until the national title game. But you're going to be competing against an elite squad for the most part, and you've got to be ready to play. The last time Alabama won an outright national championship was 2020, not too long ago. COVID year, perfect, undefeated, whatever. The last time Michigan won an outright national title, not a split title, an outright national title, was 1948. The Korean War was still 2 years away. That shows I'm like I said right now, I'm not mad about it. Michigan football has been truly irrelevant from that perspective since the Eisenhower administration. Actually, that would have been the Truman administration. You win a bunch of Big Ten titles. Bo won a bunch of Big Ten titles, never won a natty. Terrible record in the Rose Bowl. Jim Harbaugh, you're almost identical. You have a couple Big Ten titles. You beat Ohio State. Everybody loves you. But on the national scale, you're 0 for 2 in the playoff, and you got embarrassed by TCU, and you got the brakes beat off of you by Georgia. This is your last chance. I think if you come here and get blown out in this ballgame, folks, I think Harbaugh leaves because he has not signed that contract. We heard all this talk about the contract. He's not going to let talk to NFL teams. He hadn't signed the contract, folks. There's still a chance for him to run. And the notice of issues from the NCAA for the 2020 violations just delivered. They haven't even gotten to the 21 or the 23 Spygate stuff from Stallions. That's all coming. Does he want to wait around after losing 3 straight times in the playoff? The pressure's on Michigan to get this done. There's tremendous pressure. Your coach, you're already the fact that wasn't even qualified and all the allegations, and your coach being suspended and getting to be still recognized as one of the best teams in the nation, but another school lost their quarterback and that was held against them. That's a problem that still sticks with me a little bit, where you're sort of being scapegoated. I mean, not scapegoated, but ignored for violations off the field to give you an athletic competitive advantage. But all that being gone, Michigan, when are you truly going to get back to being nationally relevant? Making the playoff is cute, but getting blown out just makes you more of a laughingstock. This game is more important for you than I think anybody else. You've got to show up in the Rose Bowl, and you've got to show up against Alabama and win at the line of scrimmage and try to win a football game. You're lucky this game is not in the Southeast, in Atlanta or Miami or anywhere else. You're in the Rose Bowl. It's obviously a massive stadium, and you have a chance to have a more of a balanced 50-50 or even a pro-Michigan crowd, which I think gives you a chance to have that extra crowd noise in big situations to help give you an extra little boost. You're going to need every little bit of it because Alabama, the mystique of Alabama is still there. Folks, that name, that logo, Nick Saban walking out there, if they're playing in a big game, you best be ready. They're going to be prepared to play football. They do not show up unprepared. Line of scrimmage is where Alabama has always dominated since Nick Saban's arrived. Offensive, defensive side of the ball, front seven, run the ball, line of scrimmage, protect the quarterback, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They own the line of scrimmage. They own the trenches. That's how they beat Georgia in the SEC championship game a couple weeks ago. They dominated the line of scrimmage. To win this game, if you're Michigan, you have got to be tougher at the line of scrimmage than Alabama. That's easier said than done. You've had your Georgia practice periods all year long or the past 2 years or whatever. This is the game you have to put them to use. You've done it through the Big Ten. You've played great football and you've been able to beat Ohio State. Can you show up on the national scale and beat an SEC team, much less beating Alabama? If you can, then I think you maybe shake off the past 2 losses and it sort of saves and puts Michigan in a new light, maybe gives them a national spotlight. You know what? This is they're actually for real. If you lose again, nobody's taking you seriously ever again. I think the Big Ten getting more teams in there, the playoff times tight is going to be a lot tougher. If Harbaugh leaves, things will get rougher. How do you manage the situation? How do you manage the expectations? How do you take advantage of this game that you're in right now? If you have a tight game, if you even play Alabama close and maybe lose late, I think you'll get more respect. If you get blown out again, like you did versus Georgia, this entire program, I think at a core, will take a major hit. Transfer portal, people start leaving, people start, negatively recruiting Michigan if they're all just frauds. These things will happen and a lot's on the line. Where do you stand in this football game? Michigan is built to lead from ahead. They're built to run the football, play action, and then rely on a great defense. J.J. McCarthy and this offense is not designed to put 3 or 4 receivers on the field and throw consistently, especially when you're behind. They looked a lot of frazzled versus TCU last year in the playoff. They really struggled to get back in the ball game. They had ups and downs, but they actually never really got a chance to even lead the ball game. He did not look comfortable throwing from behind. They couldn't keep up with Georgia. Georgia beat the brakes off them. The passing game never held. They are not built to play from behind. You've got to get them down by 10 plus, especially in the second half. They are really not built to be able in the situation of playing from behind. That's what Alabama has to do, get after them. But that's what Michigan, if you can show that you can actually get after Alabama and lead from ahead, run the football on them, run with Blake Corum, run with Edwards, and use the passing game when you want to play and you keep your own, dictate the offense, dictate the pace, you're going to be just fine. A lot easier said than done. But if you are down, I'm worried at Michigan's ability to throw the football to continue to get back in the ball game or stay in the football game. And that's where the big key is. How is this game going to be played out? Are you going to dictate to Alabama, or is Alabama going to dictate to you? In the end, it comes back to the line of scrimmage. Who owns it when it gets down to it? Alabama side, Milroe, you had some rough starts early in the year. You had some rough looks. You've gotten better. You're starting to feel more confidence. You got lucky versus Auburn, and we're going to say it. It was a miracle win versus Auburn to even get you in the SEC championship, get you in that momentum push to the SEC championship game and then go in there and beat Georgia. Where is it now? Is this moment going to be too big for you? Are you going to be able to be settled in playing out there in the Rose Bowl in front of 100,000 people on New Year's Day? It's a different kind of thing. Yes, you play in Tuscaloosa. There's a lot of people there playing for Alabama. Has a lot of expectations. But something about playing on New Year's Day in the Rose Bowl in a playoff game is a big deal. How will you settle in? Will you let the emotions get to you? Offensively, Burton, the rest of those receivers, are you guys ready for the moment? Can you come out and keep showing, keep actually developing and getting better every single week? Where's the running game at? And your offensive line, can you take it to that Michigan defense who has proven to be very good the past few years? Defensively, Kool-Aid, Dallas Turner, and the whole group on that side of the ball. Caleb Downs at safety. Are you ready? Are you tough enough? Can you shut down this Michigan running game and force them to throw? Can you put the game into McCarthy's hands where he has to drop back 35, 40 times in a ball game to throw the ball? If you can take out the running game and shut down Corum and Edwards, this game is going to be a cakewalk for Alabama because I think that pass rush eventually will get home. But again, can you own the line of scrimmage? Can you own the line of scrimmage? Can you own the line of scrimmage? I'm not picking against Alabama. I can't. Alabama will win this football game. They will win by 10. It'll be a late fourth quarter pull away. Both these teams will be knocking at each other the entire game. I'm going to say it's going to be a 27-17 final, and Alabama advances to the national championship game.
All right, Fresh. If not now, when? We've said this before. This is the third time that the Wolverines have found themselves in the college football playoff. If they can't win this football game, and again, this win would mean a lot to the Wolverines because there's been some articles put out there about what team has been the best team in the 4-team college football playoff throughout the entire 10 years. And the answer to that question is Alabama. Alabama has been the flag bearer. They've been the gold standard since the 4-team playoff has come into play here. If the Wolverines want to be taken seriously, they got to beat the best team. They got to beat the team that has been that really has been the Dragon Slayer for all 10 years of this thing. It's interesting because this is not the same Alabama team we saw like win a national championship a couple years ago. They're not as good. When I say that too, that doesn't mean this Alabama team is bad. This Alabama team is, I feel, more rugged. I think the other teams that we've seen previously with Alabama will beat the brakes off you. They'll kind of just like go and just try to run up the score on you and try to get some quick, fast, scores. Don't get me wrong. You break a big play for the Tide, like go for it. Milroe's got a cannon attached to him. But this is more of like just kind of pounding. Alabama is just pounding after you, pounding after you, pounding after you until they really break a big one here. I think that this is something that the Wolverines really got to take into account for. I think this game is going to be close. I don't think it's going to be a 10-point win by Alabama in here. I think that there's a few areas. There is a pathway to a Wolverines victory in this. Really, it's going to come down to two players. Is Corum able to get his yards against the Alabama defense? Is he able to set J.J. McCarthy up into manageable passing situations? If Corum is able to do what we've seen him do all year long, he's got over 1,000 yards, 24 touchdowns on the year. Is he able to do what he needs to get done against Alabama? The one thing that is really never changed with Alabama this year, except for maybe you can kind of point at that Texas game, is that defense has still been an Alabama-level quality defense. They're going to sell out. I think Saban's a genius. He knows more and has forgotten more about football than I will ever know in my lifetime. This man will put the game into J.J. McCarthy's hands. He is going to figure out a way to bottle up Blake Corum, and especially, I think it's huge that the Wolverines are not going to have their all-pro left or all-pro guard, Zach Zinter, in the game. That's a huge matchup issue for them. If Corum is able to run the football where it doesn't go back in onto McCarthy's shoulders, when I say that, he's still going to have to make some big boy throws throughout this game. No matter what. Corum runs for $125 or $130 in this game. Great. That's all well and good. Even if he does that and McCarthy only has 6 completions in the game, it's not going to be able to, it's not a pathway to victory. McCarthy is going to have to make a big time throw here and there. But if Corum can make those throws manageable for him, if Donovan Edwards can make those throws manageable, where McCarthy can take advantage of a defense that's been kind of softened up, I think Michigan's got a shot at this thing. I think they do. I think no matter who wins this football game, I think this is going to be a close one. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. For the Tide, I think this is an opportunity for Jalen Milroe to kind of announce himself to the college football world. And I know that's going to sound weird about an Alabama quarterback announcing himself to the college football world, but people are going to be quick to forget that Milroe was benched early on this season. He wasn't the starter all year long. This Tide team went through some challenges very early on. They have that huge loss to Texas in there that really kind of, I think, galvanized them a little bit, but it also was a very shaky galvanization. You saw the boat rocking. You're like, is the boat going to capsize? But it's like everyone worked together to get the boat back to even keel. And it made them all come closer together because there's so much rocking back and forth. I think when I say Milroe's about ready to announce himself, I think he could be the Heisman frontrunner next year. I think if he has a big game, especially he kind of uses the college football playoff to be his announcement, and he makes this run through the field through the last year or 4, especially if Alabama winds up winning another national title. Ladies and gentlemen, Jalen Milroe is your Heisman frontrunner going into next year. He's going to be the betting favorite if he pulls this off and wins these 2 games, because there's a good chance that he may, in the national title game, get an opportunity to get a revenge against that Texas loss on neutral field. That'd be great. That's great for them. And Texas is not the same team that they have going through. We'll get talking to that if that kind of comes to pass here. But I'm with you, Fresh. Now, here's the other thing. I think that I'm with you. I have some problems with some of the things that the committee did, and I would lobby for the committee to, start asking Fresh Mind's opinion on these things, start taking our opinion into consideration, because you guys know that Fresh and we know football better than most of those guys. Folks, I'm being very facetious here. Don't just rip me in the comments section right there. But what I'm saying here is I'm with you, Fresh. I think that Michigan kind of got the benefit of the doubt in when other things weren't penalized, or Florida State got penalized where other people didn't get penalized. I don't know. Not totally accurate on this and there, but I think Alabama's going to win this football game. Give me the Tide by less than a touchdown. I think if the spread was at around the 6.5 number, I'd feel okay with it. But I got the Tide by right around a touchdown.
If Alabama wins the Rose Bowl, they win this game. Saban will be the first coach to win back-to-back games during the same season against two different number one ranked teams in college football history. If he hasn't already done enough, he'd be the first in the same season, back-to-back games versus number one ranked team in the same season.
Wow, interesting. And for all those people who thought, is Alabama dead and buried this year? And we questioned them. Listen, guys, we did.
But we had them preseason number 4.
Right. We didn't have them ranked high. And we prefaced it too, we questioned them to Alabama standards. We didn't question them to all 130 other football team standards. We questioned them to their own standards that they set. And that's the crazy thing. When you are at the top of the mountain, when you are I would say top 5 or 6, I think we do this for the top 5 or 6 teams. It's not a standard against all of college football, because shoot, how many teams right now would love to be 11-1 or 10-2?
Love it.
They love it. If I was, I don't know,
NC State, 10-win season. Perfect example.
NC State, yeah, it's a great example. Yeah, NC State's a wonderful example. Thank you, Fresh. NC State, 10-2, have opportunity to pick up their 11th win. Or they're picking up their opportunity to pick up 10. I can't remember on that one.
They're 9 right now, trying to pick up 10. But if they already had 10 wins, they had going for 11 or 12. That right there would be an ecstatic season, a greatest season in NC State football history.
Right.
Other people are 11-1, 10-2 already, and you're like, eh.
Yeah, and if Alabama went 10-2 this season, people would be like, oh man, look, we all told you Saban was done for him. It's comparing. You guys got to be where you're comparing your expectations on these things. All right, Fresh, let's go to our other playoff game. This is going to be at 8:45 on New Year's Day. If you haven't recovered already by the Rose Bowl, maybe hit up a Waffle House before it if you're going to watch the Sugar Bowl. This game is just uber fascinating to me.